The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
It's coming.
All these voices. All these voices. All these things you can't explain. All these painful memories. They keep haunting you. It's haunting me. It's just a ghost of you and me. It's just a smoking gasoline. It's just a ghost of you and me. Of you and me. All these whispers.
My name is James Hershey. Right back.
All these shadows in my mind. From my reflections I can't find. It's just a ghost of you and me. It's just a smoking gasoline. It's just a
That ought to
ghost
do
of
it.
you and me. Of you and me. Don't let 'em take you away. Don't let 'em bring you down inside. It's just the mirrors in your mind. Don't let 'em bring you down.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How's everybody tonight?
Tonight is the first show of October for us here at Staring into the Abyss. Now, last year, we did an entire month on horror-related topics, with our final show in October being the history of Halloween, to kind of celebrate Halloween because that's a big deal in the horror and the paranormal communities. This year, we're going to be kicking off our Halloween month extravaganza with a very interesting show that will be answering a question that, honestly, several of you have sent me. I've gotten this question so many times that it'll be a blessing to finally get this show done and out of the way, because I was getting bombarded with it. Now, this was a tough one to do because it's going to be a fun show. It's going to be an interesting show. It's going to kind of be a silly show at times because of the topic, but it was a very difficult show to research and to actually come up with any answers to. But I did the best I could, so here we go. There's a story that has been going around the internet for a couple of years now, that the Kardashians are famous because they had an ancestor that made a deal with a bunch of witches. The basic questions that I have received about this are, have I heard the story? Do I believe the story? Is the story true? Can the story be true? So on tonight's episode of Staring into the Abyss, we're going to present you with this story in its entirety. That's right, I tracked down the original story, and I'm going to be reading it to you tonight. And I'm sure that comes as no surprise to you guys who listen to the show, because I do a hell of a lot of research. So I have the original story. And I'm also going to try to answer the rest of all those questions as well. So on tonight's episode, we will examine the Kardashian witch legend. And I want to just go on the record as saying that I'm not a huge fan of the Kardashians. I don't watch the show. But I am a married man, and my wife is obsessed with the Kardashians. She watches them all the time, and as anybody that watches these shows knows, it's on almost 24/7 on like the E! Network and stuff like that. Now, if she's watching this during the day, I can grab my axe and go outside and cut down a tree, or if it's the late fall, early winter, I can take my bow or my rifle out and do some hunting, or just go mow in the summer, whatever. But I can get away from this TV show. In the evenings and at night when it's dark outside, it's a little bit more difficult because I have to be inside the house. And I have seen the Kardashians once or twice, okay? We'll just leave it at that. So we're going to start off tonight with the original story. So I'm going to read that to you now. It's titled, Why Are the Kardashians Famous? A Dark History Exposed. In 1809, a dark-haired woman strode through the deep forest of Armenia. The rain lashed down through the trees, the water making her robes heavy and thick, but she was determined. The young woman was Kim Kardashian, the great-great-great-great-grandmother of Kim, Kourtney, and company. She was beautiful, but her life was hard. At 19 years of age, she had just had her first child. Intent on forging a better future for her offspring, Kim sought out the witch clan of the Chicot woods. The witch clan possessed powerful magic, dark spells, and ancient curses that had made them enemies of the Armenian state. Now, deep in the dark woods, they practiced their arts away from the prying eyes of an increasingly modern and intolerant society. Kim walked for days, her dark eyes fixed to the rough and ancient trails of the vanished woodland tribes. Follow your heart, they had told her, and you will find the clan. But be careful, they had said, for the witches will demand much of you, much more than you can imagine. Finally, Kim came upon a clearing. Gnarled trees rose up from the earth like tortured hands. Beyond the rough clearing, beyond the dark earth, the mouth of a cave gaped like the throat of a beast. Within, faint traces of flame cast shadows into the depths, ghostly tremors of light and movement. Witches, Kim cried, hear me. Her words echoed back from the cave, unnatural and stripped of all humanity. I come seeking a better future for my kin. I offer you all that you wish to take. I offer you my soul. Soul, soul, soul. The word echoed back, each repetition louder than the first. Movement, solid movement from within. Cloaked and hooded figures began to emerge. They moved like the flowing mud, connected to the ground, to the soul of the ancient earth. Soul, you say? Said the first. A woman's voice, but something more, something stronger. 4 witches now stood in the clearing, eyes fixed upon Kim from beneath their tattered hoods. Soul? You have a soul to give? I have a strong heart, but my life is troubled, said Kim. No matter how hard I try, I cannot make my way in this world. I ask nothing for myself, but I ask you now to give fame, fortune, and physical beauty to my offspring and to future generations of Kardashians. Make the Kardashians famous and free them from my toil. The second witch now spoke. Fame, fortune, and physical beauty. You ask no more. Nothing more, wise witches, nothing more. And so it shall be. But first, you must do the dance of Chico. The other witches cried with glee, the dance, the dance. She shall do the dance of Chico. Kim stepped closer. I shall do the dance. Tell me how. And so it was that Kim Kardashian submitted to the dance of Chico, an ancient dance that the witches enjoyed more than any other. They ordered Kim to disrobe, to stand naked in front of them, and so she did. She stood in all her perfection upon the dark earth of the clearing, and the rain began to fall upon her perfectly formed breast, her smooth thighs, her raven hair, the cleft of her extremely formed buttocks. The witches then adorned her in preparation for the dance. They placed a hedgehog upon her head. They hung a leopard's tail from her buttocks. "Clinch," they cried, "clinch." They affixed the tiny beaks of 2 snowcocks to her protruding nipples. Her feet were placed inside the severed paws of a giant bear. "Now dance," they cried. "Dance the dance of Chico." Chico was a terrible dancer, but she tried. Oh, how she tried. The witches were happy, and they began to sing amidst bouts of hysterical laughter. She dances, the dance of Chico. What a fool she looks. What a tit. As she dances with a hog on her head and a bear on her feet. Indeed, Chico looked like a total idiot. The witches laughed uncontrollably, snorting and cackling, and occasionally releasing foul-smelling farts, as they watched her performance. One even rolled around in the dirt, doubled over in all her glee. They had taken her dignity for their own amusement. They had also drawn impressively detailed sketches of the dancing Chico, which they later sold to the Armenian press. They then spread gossip throughout the nation, telling of her ridiculous dance. And so it was. So it began. Chico returned to her village, but her family and friends shunned her. She had become a joke in society. She returned to the dark woods, where she remained, isolated and alone, with only her child for company. But the witches had not lied. Chico was damned to loneliness, but her child and all of her female descendants received what the witch clan of Chico had promised: fame, fortune, and physical beauty, nothing more. Talent, wisdom, dignity. Such things have been lost to the line of Kardashian women. But they have always had a strange capacity for achieving fame, fortune, and physical beauty, but nothing more. Nothing more. And that is why the Kardashians are famous. At least it seems to make as much sense as any other theory. The end. So there is the original story. Now for the question of, is this story true? Well, first we should ask ourselves, could this story be true? Is there anything in this story that screams out false? Any facts that don't match up, anything like that? Well, first of all, the Kardashians are Armenian. They have Armenian ancestors. So that lines up. There are many, many tales of witches and witchcraft in Armenian lore and the old religions of Armenia. Remember, in the story, the dance was called the Dance of Chico, and the witch clan was the witch clan of Chico. So we have to find out, is Chico a real place? Does it exist? Or has it ever existed? Because if it doesn't exist, then we know right there the story's bunk. Well, Chico, which is what the dance and the witches were called, is an actual village in Armenia. And there is also a forest reserve that is right there next to Chico that is called the Chico State Reserve, and it is Armenia's second largest forest reserve. It is gigantic and beautiful, by the way. So we know that there was plenty of forest and wooded areas for the encounter in this storyline to take place and for the witches to hide out. Tons of land, tons of area there. So that lines up. Now, before Christianity came to Armenia in the 4th century, they were a pagan country. Basically, what they believed is that there was one supreme god and there were many, many lesser gods. And their religious practices were full of witchcraft and spells for all sorts of things. So witchcraft was very common then. And there are even people that still practice the old ways in Armenia today. There's a brand new church that has come up within the last couple decades that is following the old religions before Christianity came. So it's something that not only existed way back in the past, but it still is going on today in Armenia. So that lines up. We've all heard of gypsy magic, and that is basically what this is. That's where it gets its roots from, is in Armenia in that area. So let's look at the Dance of Chico. Now, dance did play a very large role in the ancient Armenian culture. Now, I did a study of a ton of the old ancient Armenian dances, okay, in my research, and I did not find an actual dance of Chico in my research, other than this story. But everywhere else where I researched talking about all the different dances in Armenia and all the different ancient dances in Armenia, I never came across a dance of Chico. But there is a dance that is called Shalako. Now the dance of Shalako, was traditionally a dance for men in the ancient Armenian culture. But when it was performed, there was always a woman involved in the performance as well. And the reason for that is the basic point of this dance is for the male dancers to dance around and to win the favor of the female participant through their dancing. Parts of it remind me of a river dance because they're kind of lined up, joined arms and kicking and doing all kinds of weird things. And then other parts of it, it's just a bunch of hopping and prancing around while you're waving really brightly colored handkerchiefs. And the woman in the dance, her movements are very slow and rhythmic and sensual, while the men are kind of prancing all over the place frantically. So although there is no dance of Chico that I was able to find, there is a dance of Shalako, which sounds very, very close. Now, granted, there's no hog on your head or bear on your feet or leopard's tail in your buttocks or anything like that is going on in the dance of Shalako. But it seemed to me by reading the story that that wasn't the traditional way to do the dance. I think that was done just to humiliate Kiko. That was the point of that in the story, I believe, was just to make her look as dumb as humanly possible so that the witches could laugh at her. I don't believe that that was ever a part of a traditional dance because let's think about this logically, everyone. If the traditional dance had you putting your feet in big old bear's feet and putting a hog thing on your head and sticking a leopard tail in your butt and all kinds of weird stuff like that, who the hell would do it? You would have like 0 people that did that dance because it's dumb. You know, there's no way that would happen. So it couldn't have been part of the traditional dance. It had to be just something to make her look dumb. Now, I also tried to do some research and find out if there was ever a Kim Kardashian in history. Now, I tried to trace the Kardashian name back as far as I could go. So I did a genealogy of Kim Kardashian, basically, of her family, and I took it back as far as I could go. There was a guy named Sam Kardashian, which is a direct descendant of hers. He is her great-great-grandfather. He was born in Russia in 1852. Now, that's the earliest of her ancestors with the Kardashian name that I could find. But he is in Russia, so that's right in that area of Armenia. It's right in that general vicinity. So if you take that back another 50 years, then you're right in the time frame where this story was supposed to take place. Now, doing that genealogy, there are a lot of ancestors in that family tree that go back a lot further than 1852. I have stuff all the way from the 1500s of their family tree, but a lot of those people were here in the States in Massachusetts. You had one group that was in Maine, but almost all of them were in Massachusetts. But that's the other side of the family. If you're following just the surname Kardashian, Sam Kardashian is where I hit a roadblock in 1852. So I was not able to verify whether or not there was ever a Kiko Kardashian. The records might exist somewhere out there that can prove yes or no on that, but I could not find them. But we can place Sam Kardashian in Russia in 1852. So that's the general area, and it's 50 years later than this story took place, but it's close. So that is the information that I have. Now, the other question that everybody wanted to know was, do I believe that this story is true? And that's a complicated answer. I do not believe that this story is true the way it is written. What we have here, and trust me, I make my living through writing. That's what I do for a living. I'm a horror author. And I know a good story when I see one. And this story was written by somebody that knows how to write. It has descriptive language. It sets the tone. There are elements that an author puts into a novel in this story that tells me that this is a work of fiction. But having said that, could it be based on reality? Could somebody have taken an old story that's passed down through the generations about this family and just wrote it up as a good story? That's possible. We do know that there's a lot of witchcraft that went on in Armenia during that time. We do know that the culture of that country and the religion of that country pre-Christianity was based on witchcraft and spell work. So it's highly possible that it could have happened. Do I think that the reason the Kardashians are famous today is because they made a deal with witches way back in the 1800s in Armenia? That's the basic root of the story once you strip everything away. No, I really don't. I don't think that this is true. Most likely it's not. Most likely this was a tongue-in-cheek bit of satire that was meant to say that the only way the Kardashians could be famous is because they made a deal with witches because they have no talent. They can't really do anything. They're famous just for being famous. I mean, Kim made a sex tape, and that's about it. But behind the scenes, they do a lot of different businesses. They have makeup lines, they have clothing lines, all this kind of stuff. So it's a lot more than just that one thing. But do I believe they made a deal with witches? Probably not. At least not back in the 1800s. Now, what I think might have happened is what has happened to a lot of people in Hollywood and the music industry. Did they sell their soul to witches in the 1800s? Probably not. Did they sell their soul? It's quite possible. But it wouldn't be to the Chicot witches in Armenia. If they sold their soul, it would be to Baal, because that is the demon that the majority of Hollywood has sold their soul to. I've talked about that on other shows. So it's very possible they could have sold their soul for fame and fortune, and that's who they would have sold it to, is Baal, not some witches in the woods in Armenia in the 1800s. Is it also possible that they didn't sell their soul at all, that they just worked their ass off to build something? That's highly possible as well. It's not out of the realm of possibility. I wouldn't say it's highly possible, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. Plus, you got to realize that our culture here in America anymore is kind of really, really dumbed down. And I don't mean that as an insult. I love America. I love my country. It's just, if you look at what the majority of people watch on TV it's all this mindless reality TV crap. So in that kind of environment, it does not surprise me that somebody like a Kim Kardashian is famous. Seinfeld was one of the biggest sitcoms ever on TV. And essentially, according to them, it was a show about nothing. And people just ate it up. So that doesn't surprise me. So I'm going to say it's not necessarily true that they sold their soul at all. Who knows? I'm surely not going to accuse them of selling their soul to be rich and famous, because I don't know. I don't have any proof or any information or evidence to say that. Is it possible? Of course it's possible. There's a lot of that goes on in Hollywood. And when you look at the fact that they don't sing, they don't dance, they're not athletic, they don't really do anything to be famous, it would definitely make people wonder. But that is a rundown and a breakdown of all of the facts of this story, the story itself, and my opinions on it. I hope that you have enjoyed this story. I hope that this show serves to answer those questions for all those listeners that have sent this to me over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. So now I've done it, so you don't have to send me this question anymore, because I'll be glad just to get it out of my head, to be honest with you, and to get it done and move on to something new, because this one was a pain in my butt. It really was. Through the dozens of questions that I received, through trying to actually research this thing, to find this information was not easy at all. It's funny because, like, I did a show on the werewolf witch trials where I literally went through medieval court records and medieval manuscripts to find the information for that show. So I had to go to libraries with big, dark, dusty books and actually find this information for that show. And that was easier than trying to track this one down. This one was a real pain. But I hope that I have answered these questions for you the best I know how, at least. And I hope that you've enjoyed this. So I'm going to throw this over to Old Boy now, and I want to get his opinion on this story. And this should be fun and good. And I also want to find out what he thinks, because he has a background in witchcraft and everything. He's a Wiccan, so that's what he does. I am a Christian, so I don't do all this witchery stuff. But he does. So maybe he has a different take on it than I do. Maybe he can say, hey, man, that's perfectly normal. This, and this. And that would be wonderful to hear and understand if that's the case. Or maybe he'll just think this is a dumb story like most people do. And that should be entertaining as well. So with that, I'm going to throw over to Old Boy and get his opinion. So go ahead and take it away, brother.
And thank you, brother. Yeah, this is an interesting show, honestly. I really didn't know about what I was going to do with this show, because I'm not a big fan of Kim Kardashian and the Kardashians altogether. I think this is promoting them more than the truth. But it's a fun show, we'll say. And whoever, a couple people, I guess, have sent this asking about this, if she's, her family sold out to witches in the 1800s, is her great-great-grandmother. I think that's a cool story, but that's what I'm going to get to. I think that's all it is. The problem I have with this is it's about the Kardashians, and most of the stuff about Kardashians are not 100% accurate, and it's Hollywood stuff. And I think whoever did this probably just wanted to work on the lore, but they probably really fished around to find all this stuff out about the Kardashians, and to know all this stuff, and then maybe to find out that you did a thing, you can't find anything under the 1800s on them. The one thing I was thinking about is maybe that whoever did this story read up James about this, and they've just made up the name. They saw the father, so there was a man in the 1800s with a Kardashian name, but there's no female, or maybe it's, I don't know the whole tree. That's one thing, I don't know what their tree is. What I think is somebody just went along with the story. It was a rumor, like the Acquire, how they say, oh, Elvis is still alive and he married some lady in Kansas City in a trailer park, or aliens abducted my dog, and Bigfoot lives in my backyard. That's kind of what this sounds like, tabloid stuff. I think somebody probably read that in a tabloid. That's what you probably didn't get to, James, is somebody probably read this out of a tabloid magazine or the internet, and we know that's gospel, not. And I think that's where they got this from. It's a fun story because it's Halloween, and we wanted to do a lot of Halloween stuff because we did it last year. This is our second year on Para X, so we're doing the fun thing for Halloween. We do stuff for Christmas too, so that's coming too. Their second annual. But this was a really funny story. I got a kick out of listening to it, and James talk about it and stuff like that. And I think it's baloney. I don't think her family. I mean, now they might have sold out later on. That's a possibility. I think the whole dancing thing, and her dancing with bare feet and a cougar tail out of her behind and a possum on her head. That's really ridiculous. I've never heard of a witch ever do that. And I mean, I've heard witches taking people's souls or sell, but there's always a deal that's always happens there. But I've never heard of them doing stuff like that. That's kind of ridiculous. It's probably exaggerated. People like to exaggerate Wicca and paganism as it is, and makes us look like we're worse than we really are. And that's probably what it is. Another story from a tabloid paper or the internet, whatever. Somebody made something up, but I have looked around. I couldn't find anything other than what James is talking about. So basically, my opinion is I don't believe it. Now, this whole thing of selling the soul, that's possible. To witches, you can put curses and stuff like that if you go to the right witch. Those are usually dark or warlocks, whatever you want to call them. And warlocks are basically somebody who's been kicked out of their group, their coven, and they betrayed the coven. They're bad. So it could have been one of them or a necromancer, and they could have sold for fame and fortune. But you also got to remember, Kim's mom married Jenner. Bruce Jenner was famous already. So that's how she got, she married, and I think her ex-husband was that judge or something from the OJ trial. I think, I don't remember. Don't quote me from that. But I know she was married to Bruce Jenner, and Jenner is a well-known, look at he ended up becoming, and she is one of the biggest names in the world now. And that's a whole nother story I don't want to get into, but everybody knows the Kardashians and Jenner, and they have a lot of people think they're not doing anything, but they do. They got makeup lines. They got clothes. They got all kinds of stuff. They do, they have foundations. Kim made a lot of money. One of the Kardashians were married to Lamar Odom. He was a basketball player, so she had money already. And I think Khloe's husband, I don't know if they're together anymore, but he had money. So they married into money. So that's how they get a lot of their money too. They just marry into it. I think maybe they might have made a deal because a lot of people in Hollywood do, to Bell or Satan. They might have done that. Because a lot of people do that in the Illuminati and Hollywood, because I live in California, and a lot of this stuff happens. I don't like talking about it because I know people in the industry, and I know they exist. And there's some things you don't talk about. That's why I keep my distance from the Illuminati stuff. But there's a possibility that could happen. Or they sold it to somebody. They could have met somebody who has satanic ties, a witch, a dark witch. They want to be famous. There's some people who do that. That's been going through time with people selling their souls, or supposedly selling their souls. Like The Witch. I don't know if you guys ever seen that movie. Check it out. It talks about what she does at the end. She basically sells her soul to the devil. That's who Black Phillip is. Ends up being the devil. And she sold her soul, but her dad ended up being a liar, and he got kicked out of the church, and they had to leave and go live in the middle of the forest, and he wasn't supposed to go in this woods, and he did anyway. So he cursed his family, and he was going to sell her off, basically get her married on, because back then they arranged marriages then, and they used to get money out of it. Like it'd be a trade. Like, you let me marry your daughter off to my son, I'll trade you this whole herd of cattle and 10 bags of gold. I'm not saying that's what probably happened, but it's probably more like shillings. Or pounds, whatever it was then. We'll give you 5 pounds, and you can have my whole. Farming was a big thing then. As many animals, you didn't have it like you went to McDonald's or Stater Brothers and you went and got food. You trade for pork and pigs and chickens and ducks. You would trade to eat, and you get a little bit of gold back then that would help you out. You probably feed you for a couple years. or you can grow corn, whatever they did. They did trade it for, that's what you would do. You give up, to get the family's bigger, so you would make more. See, you had two families that are decently poor, and then they get together and they get a little bit more wealthy. And that's what would happen. And you just keep marrying into families, so you would get more and more money. That's how that would work. And that's probably what was going to happen with Kim. What could have happened with Kim's ancestors is they were broke, and they wanted a cheap way to get out of things, and so they asked these witches to help them out. There's a possibility, but I don't think so. It's not impossible, but I think this story is not real. I think it's been made up, and it's kind of crazy. I got to get a kick out of it. I thought it was funny because the Kardashians are crazy anyway, but I don't really watch them. I can't really stand them. Not that they're horrible people, just they're not my cup of tea, and I don't really care watching the show. And God bless them, as much money they can make, or blessed be whatever they want to do, they can make their money the way they're going to make their money. I don't hate on anybody. If they want to make money, that's the way they're going to do it. That's how they're going to do it. But yeah, my ties with being what I was involved in with, because he was saying something earlier, and I'll let him get back to this about me being a Wiccan. There is stuff that I did a long time ago, and I got myself in trouble with, and there's some stuff that I deal with, and you never really get out of this. Like, it doesn't go, oh, hey, you fell on your hands and knees and everything changes. It doesn't happen like that. Once you get involved in this stuff, you always have to fight the temptation of getting back into it, of getting into that dark side. Once you start feeling power, like a very powerful, that energy of like you can't be stopped, then you want to keep doing things, and you keep doing things that you're not supposed to be doing and messing with, like spells and reading different books that you're not supposed to be getting involved in. Because you're supposed to be, people got to realize you're supposed to be doing light and goodness. But I have opinion on good and evil, because some people who say they're good have done a lot of evil, and said people who've done a lot of evil were actually not bad people. There's always going to be a difference of opinion on good and evil. Some of the stuff that I did was not the best. I was young. I didn't know what I was doing. And at the time, I wasn't thinking of, what's this going to do to me, or what's going to come after me. It was just that I need power, and I want to be better than some people. And I can get a better life if I do it this way. It opened doors, and some of them have never been closed. When you sell something like that, and I see there's always an argument, can you sell your soul anyway? And that's a show we can do. God, I'm glad that you brought this up, James, because this is a show we can do. Can you sell our soul one day? We'll do it one day. I think that you can. And I think you're also born into it. I think that your family can curse you, or I think that sometimes we were talking one day that halflings, people can be born. That's why we have psychotic murderers and killers, and people have no conscience. And people are then you're going to get all the science people, they can prove that. Psychologists have proven that's just that they're crazy in the head. There's a malfunction in the brain and chemical imbalance. Not everything can be explained. That's what people need to realize. That's why I get so angry. Because just because you think you know what you're talking about, because some guy told you that, doesn't mean it's right. Yeah, he could be studying. He can go out and read every book in the world. Doesn't mean I have dealt with things you don't ever want to deal with. And I will still do it. I would walk in hell to find information on things. I'm not scared. I go in, and you can ask James after I'm done with this, that I go running into graveyards first person. I'm the first one that goes in there. I don't care. I'm not scared. I'm not scared if it was a bunch of satanic people in there doing a bunch of spells. I'm not scared. People, you got to watch out. You don't know what I do know what I'm doing. I'm not like anybody else anybody's ever met, me or James. We are different. And if we ever get a TV show, we're going to be doing stuff that most people won't go touch or mess with. But that's me and him, and that's how we are. I'm not suggesting anybody go out and do this or sell your soul for money and riches. Because if you want to be rich, everybody wants to have money and be comfortable. But that's not the way to do it. And I think a lot of people are so obsessed with that and being famous and rich and having money. And people know who they are. They'll do anything. They will even sell their soul. They'll sell out their whole family because they just don't care anymore. Money's more important to them than anything else. And that's sad that it's like that. But how humans are, they're either going to do good or they're going to do bad. You have two choices. You can do the good, and yeah, you're going to have hard times in life, but you just keep going, or you do the shortcuts and you do bad. And right from wrong. I hate when people say they don't know. They do know what is right from wrong. If you know that stealing somebody's car is wrong and you do it anyway, then you don't care. It has nothing to do with right and wrong. You just don't care. And that's the problem. But yes, I do not believe this story. I think it's hilarious. I believe that they might have sold their soul, but not to these witches. It was probably to somebody else. Like I was saying, Belle, like you were saying, I kind of agree with you on that, James. But I will let you go ahead and have this one. But thank you for whoever sent this out, these couple people. It was a really fun show to do. Thank you. I got to laugh.
The father of Kim is Robert Kardashian. He was one of the lawyers on the OJ case. But one thing you were talking about as far as not being afraid when we go do these things, I would say that we have an extraordinary amount of courage. But I want to explain this to the audience because this is an important point for people. Courage is not the lack of fear. Fear is always present in your life for every single person on the planet. There are no exceptions. Everybody feels fear. That doesn't mean you're going to cower in the corner. And fear can manifest itself in many different ways. It can manifest itself through doubt, through a poor self-image, of yourself, doubting yourself and your abilities, and then just plain old being scared. Courage is not the lack of fear, because as I just said, fear is always present for everybody. Courage is being able to walk through the fear and still accomplish your goal, whatever that goal happens to be. Fear is a very powerful force. I have studied fear in great, great detail because I make my living scaring the hell out of people. So I have studied the psychology of fear, and I have studied the whole idea of fear, the spirituality of fear. As human beings, we progress in our lives. We do so physically, we do so emotionally as we learn to cope and to deal with situations, as we learn from experience, as they say, and we learn how to handle things. And we also do so spiritually. So as you're progressing and evolving spiritually, you're becoming a better person. You're becoming a wiser person. You gain a tremendous amount of judgment. That's why we always look at elders and we say they're wise, because they have that life experience. They've made mistakes. They've learned from it. They've evolved. They've progressed. The role that fear plays in all this is fear stops you from progressing any further. Fear will paralyze you and keep you right where you are. So what courage is the ability, when that fear is pressing down on you, to man up, as they say, and walk right through that damn fear. I made my living when I was younger as a musician. I was a singer and a guitar player, a bass player. I was in many different bands. I've played in front of thousands and thousands of people. People would often ask me, how do you go up on stage in front of that many people? Aren't you afraid? Doesn't that scare the hell out of you? Now, the macho answer would be, I'm not afraid. I get up there, no problem. I'm a tough guy. But the truth of the matter is, yeah, I was scared every single time before I got up on that stage. You look out on that audience, and there's thousands of people out there. And the thought that goes through your mind is, whoa, holy crap. I'm going to walk out in front of that, and they're all going to be looking at me and expecting me to sing? My God, man. It's a scary idea. Every single time before I went on stage, and I've played hundreds and hundreds of gigs, but every single time before I walked out on that stage, I had that fear. But you just walk right through it. As soon as you get out there, the fear is gone, and you just rock. And that's the funny thing about fear is once you conquer it, it bails for a while. Now it'll come back. You can never truly get rid of fear. It will come back in your life. But you just do the exact same thing. You don't allow fear to stop you or to keep you down. You walk right through it. And it'll go away because you've conquered it. And then it'll come back at some later point when you're doing something else, and you conquer that too. That's why they say you got to face your fears. But I don't want people to get the wrong idea that somehow fear does not affect me. Because there's been times when I've been out on hunts, and there's some scary stuff going down. A lot of these things we talk about on these shows, we've actually been out hunting these things in real life. And it gets sketchy sometimes. Now, you'll often hear me say on this show, I'm not scared of nothing. And that's true. But I view being scared differently than just feeling fear. To me, being scared of something means it stops you from going after it. You just you run the other way. You know, to me, that's being scared of something. There's always fear. There's fear of failure. There's fear of rejection. There's fear just that people won't understand, or that they'll mock you or make fun of you. That's what keeps most people quiet in society and in the world today, is fear. They're afraid that if they say something, that other people are going to mock them, or they're going to, the new thing is everybody's a racist or a sexist or a homophobe or this, that, or the other thing, whatever. They got a label and a name for everything. But that's what keeps people in their little box. That's what keeps people from progressing in life and becoming greater, is fear. Because I want every single person within the sound of my voice to understand this one simple fact. None of you are worthless. I don't care what your family says. I don't care what the bully down the street says. I don't give a damn what anybody says. Not a single one of you is worthless. Every single person that can hear my voice right now was created by an all-powerful God for a purpose. You are unique. You are great. There is greatness inside of you, just waiting to come out. You are not now what you will be later. You are, as I am, as Old Boy is, as everybody else in the world is, you are a work in progress. You are on your journey in life. As you walk that road, you will encounter fear. You will encounter temptation. Much like this story that we're covering tonight, the temptation to sell out to evil in order to take a shortcut, in order to make your life better. But don't be fooled by the lies of evil. Don't be fooled by the darkness. There's a reason why things hide in the darkness. Because if the light of truth is shined on them, then you see just how ugly they really are. So when you walk that path, stay away from that temptation. Stay away from allowing fear and evil to freeze you in place. You walk your walk. And one day, you will become what God has put you here to be. You have a purpose. I have a purpose. Every single one of us has a purpose. And one day you will be that amazing, shining star that everybody looks up to. No matter what profession you're in. You don't have to be on the radio like me. You don't have to be a famous horror author. You don't have to be on bestseller list, all that nonsense. None of that means anything. That's just what I do for a living. That's not who I am. I could care less about the money. I have made fortunes in my life. And I have given away fortunes in my life. You can ask Old Boy about this one. I give away most of my money. I don't give a damn about my money. I don't give a damn about fame. I do not need you to worship me. I do not need you to tell me how great I am or any of that nonsense, because it doesn't mean anything. I appreciate that you enjoy my work. I appreciate that you listen to this show. And I love you for listening. I love you for supporting. Thank you. But I don't need the accolades. I am not yet where I need to be, where I'm supposed to be. There is something that I am still here to do, that I'm supposed to do. I just don't know what it is yet. And none of us really do until we get to the end of that road. But like Old Boy was saying, fame, fortune, all that nonsense, it doesn't matter. Because when you're lying there, taking your last breath, what is going to be on your mind? What are you going to be thinking about? Are you going to be thinking, man, I sure am glad I bought that mansion and that yacht. Woo, I can't wait to take that yacht with me to heaven. No, you're not thinking about that yacht at all. You could give a damn about that yacht. What you're thinking about is your daughter or your son How are they going to live without you? Who's going to be there to catch them when they fall? Because you're not going to be there anymore. You're going to think of your wife, the woman that adores you and looks at you as her king. You are responsible for this woman's safety and this woman's happiness. Who's going to be there to tell her she's beautiful? Who's going to be there to brush their hand across her face? You won't be. You'll be dead. Those are the things that matter. Family, love. That's what's important. And believe me, when you're dying, that's what you're thinking about. And I can tell you from experience, I've died before. I tell you, I was not thinking about my car. I was not thinking about how many zeros are on my bank account. I was not thinking, man, I've got 6 checks I haven't even cashed yet. What am I gonna buy with this? That's not what I was thinking about. I was thinking about the people that I love and that I miss. And you want to talk about being scared? I wasn't afraid to die. I'm not afraid of death because I know where I'm headed afterwards. I've been there once. What I'm afraid of is leaving the people that I love behind. Not being there. Not only to help them, but to cheer them on and to share in their success and glory. I want to be there to enjoy that moment for them and with them. You know, when they're successful, when they reach the stars, when they climb that mountaintop, I want to be able to be there to cheer them on and to watch and just enjoy that moment. But I won't be. That's what really scares me. I'll go out here in the woods and I'll fight any damn thing that's out there. You know, I've been on hunts for chupacabras. I've been on hunts for Bigfoot, werewolf hunts, shifters, skinwalkers, you name it, man, we've been after it. Doesn't scare me a bit. There is fear, but I march through the fear. I'm not scared. I don't run away. But the idea of not being here when the people that I love need me and for them to have to suffer, that scares the hell out of me. So I think that is way more important than how many followers you have or how much money you've made or how many people know your name. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm very grateful for the level of success that I've had in my career and in my life. Every time I go to do a book signing, I am very grateful for all the people that show up and that want to take pictures with me and get my autograph and that kind of thing. That's really, really awesome. But that doesn't mean that I'm better than the people that came to see me, because I'm not. I have my job, they have theirs. Let me ask you a question. If winter is coming and your furnace breaks down, now you don't know how to fix a furnace. At least I don't know how to fix a furnace. So you have to call the furnace guy. Now, who is more popular in your mind at that moment? Is it me, a famous author that's written all these books and all this, or that furnace guy who can make your house warm again? He's the hero. You know, and society is full of people like that are out there every day doing the jobs, man. Doing the stuff that keeps us running. That enables people like me to entertain everybody else. Whether it be on the radio or whether it be through my novels. I can provide an escape from reality. I can provide entertainment. But in a situation like that, you're calling the furnace guy. He's more important than I am. Same thing with the plumber, man. There's been times in my life where I needed a plumber really badly because if I did not have one, I could not use my toilet. Now, I'm from the mountains, so I can go outside if I need to, but I would rather use the toilet. It's much nicer. So there have been times that I have absolutely needed a plumber. I've never needed a celebrity, not for a damn thing. They could drop off the face of the earth and it would not make a difference in my life. And I bet if you think about it, it's the same for a lot of you as well. So just because you're not rich or famous or any of that stuff, don't let that get you down. You are doing what you're supposed to. You are doing what God put you here to do. And believe me, a lot of those jobs are way more important than what the celebrities do. So with that being said, guys, we are just about out of time, so I'm going to throw over to Old Boy for the shout-outs.
And thanks for that. That was really good, James. And I'm glad we got to share that. And remember, this whole month, we're going to do a lot of stuff about Halloween because it's Halloween, guys. Our second year on Para X too. And I want to thank everybody who's been listening on Para X. I love you guys. If you want to listen to our old shows, just go to James Hershey Jr.'s YouTube page. I've been passing out business cards. We're almost at 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. We also have a merchandise store. He'll tell you where to go. Thank you for following us. I love you guys. It's getting better every week. Hopefully we can finally one day be on TV or the radio. Don't matter. Serious. But I knew I shot it out there. But thank you all. We love you all. Everybody have a good night. Misfits, sugar ladies, demon hunters, and monster lovers. Have a great night. And we love you. Blessed be.
The YouTube channel is youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. The merchandise store is teespring.com/stores/staring into the abyss. teespring.com/stores with an S on the end /staring into the abyss. That's where all the merch is. If you guys want shirts or any other kind of gear, you can get it there. Thank you for the support. Thank you for checking out the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is a funny thing because I made it, and for a long time I did absolutely nothing with it. I just was for like answering reader questions and stuff like that I got at events that I could put up, and that was all I had it for. And then we started doing this show and everything, and we started putting the replays of the show, and it's evolving into a bunch of different things. We're putting evidence up now. We're putting videos of investigations that we go on and evidence from those investigations. It's evolving into a really cool place to go for some really neat entertainment. So thank you guys for supporting that. Anybody that has not subscribed yet, please go do so and check out the channel. It's 100% free, and I'm sure there's something on there you'll like. So with that being said, guys, we love you. We appreciate you. And until we speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.